Alright, so we're back. Here's the forceps that I use, but this here is something that you can grab little pieces of meat as you're trying to cut them out. Like I'd like to cut this off, so I'll grab that and try to help hold on to it. There you go. Here's some of that jaw meat. Alright, so we're cleaning this side up all the way. We're going to work on the other side. You want to, try to get that jaw detached the best you can from the outside. That makes it a lot easier when you're trying to pull the jaw out. You can also go in behind this jawbone just to kind of help separate. And all of that also has like the sinus cavity in there too. So the eyes are all connected, all back in there behind that jawbone. So same thing here, we'll go in there and do some try to disconnect any of that material. I say material, you know, the skin, the tendons, cartilage. This is all fat right here. So a good pair of forceps, and they ain't got to be expensive. They're all on Amazon. You can get multiple different different types with multiple different sets. But here's what I'm going to do with this eye right here. Grab hold of it. You'll go in and start working around the edge of it. Right? And this fillet knife allows you to get back in there. Try to separate that membrane from the outer eye socket. And then eventually you can get all the way back in there. And you can just keep working around that eyeball and then to the back of it, and you can pull it out using those forceps to help hold on to it. You can also use the razor blade. That's one of the main reasons why I bought this blade, 'cause sometimes the stuff in there is hard to cut, and this blade allows you to get in there and get it out because it's smaller than there it is. And essentially you got a clean eye socket, and I say clean, it's cleaner, and it allows that deer skull to boil out better. So I'm going to do that to the other side, and then we're going to separate this lower jaw. We're going to separate this vertebrae. We don't want this vertebrae on there. We're going to cut it off the back. And that jaw, eventually, you can kind of see, if you look right in here, you can see that jaw when I move it. You see that muscle in there? So that's why we're cutting all that out, to separate it, so we have less stuff going into the boil. And the more fat you get out, the better it is. Another thing of note, the sooner you get this done, the less your skull will have, the less the skull will remain brown, because that fat will leak into the skull. So the sooner you do this after you've killed the deer, or the sooner you get it frozen, but still, if you can do it before you freeze it, it's even better for the deer skull. Alright, let's see if we can get around this jawbone. In this video, I don't plan on fast forwarding at all or taking a whole lot out. It should be from front to back, essentially the whole thing, for how long it took to do this, or at least the skinning of it. And then I'll let my skulls boil for about 2 hours. And when I say boil, use that term lightly, because we're not really doing a hard boil on it. So about 2 hours, I let them boil at a low simmer, not a rolling boil. That's what we don't want. And anytime you're doing this, use caution, because any of these blades or that meat or a certain piece might slip more than what you're anticipating. So just be careful. But I get more satisfaction out of getting this, doing it myself, than spending the multiple hundreds of dollars. The deer skulls look good. I've done a whole bunch of them in my past. Not professionally, just really for fun, for myself and for some friends, some people I know. But it beats spending $700, $1,000 if you want to keep the memory. And you can do this. Still didn't separate all that, the top there. So going in there, coming in the back side of this, also helps separating that that lower jaw, which we're going to try to get off here in just a second. And really, something else that I generally do is I'll come in here and cut this tongue out to where I just have the jaw. Pull that out, pull that tongue down, cut it as far back as you can. Just about ready to pop that jaw out. I ought to try and cut that other eye out first, because it's all kind of connected in there. Might help. Let's get that out of there. Again, we'll grab this lower lid here, kind of pull it out. And again, you can use this knife as well. This one's sharper because it's a razor blade. But when you start getting into it, and you need to get way back there, that other knife sometimes works better to get all the way in the back. And again, you want to be careful going around the eye if you don't want a bunch of nicks in the bone, in the eye bone there. Just be careful when you go around it. But I really do love using that knife to get in here and do some of this work. Really all we're doing right this second is separating the membrane from the wall, and then you go in and you separate the nerve system from the brain area. And I'm doing this by kind of pulling at the same time that I'm cutting. And that thing goes way back there. There it is. You can kind of see how far back in there that goes. And we're really trying to get it cut from as deep as we can get it. That way, there we go. 2 eyeballs out. Let's try to separate this jaw. So this jaw should be able to, now that we have it all, for the most part, separated, should be able to do a little push like that. And a lot of times, you can get that jaw to kind of separate. And if not, just patience. Get back in there. Some stuff's probably not fully separated. Just cut it out. There it is. There's the one side. Something still connected right in here. And these teeth are also pretty sharp, so there it is. just come out like that. Those teeth, if you ain't careful, they'll cut right into your glove. So now, try to get any of this extra meat off the back. That way I can get to that vertebrae, to that spinal cord, cut that out and all the cartilage that's holding it in place. And I lost my 2x4 on the back side, so this bag is not cooperating now. I also generally have a pair of pliers out here, either needle nose or something that has like cutters, wire cutters on it, that is, I don't even know what they're called, the type of pliers, but I went and tried to find mine the other day, and I guess the last time I used them to do a deer skull, I left them in the pot outside, and they got rusted shut. So I have to figure that out. Got some PB Blaster back here. I tried to PB blast it, but I haven't messed with them since I did that. Again, most of this, I'm just trying to get all this extra meat away so I can get to that vertebrae. And all this stuff has got to go anyhow, so. Alright. Generally, this skull should sit up like that because the antlers are the same, but these two antlers are a little different. So I'm going to try to find where that brain or that vertebrae meets the brain cavity or the back of the skull, and try to get in there with this knife. I don't know if y'all can see that, but there is, right there is what I was looking for. Try to run that fillet knife around the edge of that. You may have to twist the deer around and stuff, but you can get around that. And you can generally get that last vertebrae off of there. Just be careful. So we pretty much went all the way around that. Now we've busted most of that cartilage off. There's the vertebrae to the brain. I'm sorry, the spinal column to the brain, and there's that last vertebrae. So now that we got that off, last thing you're going to want to do is trying to clean up any of this extra meat here. So I'm going to use couple different things. I'm just going to try to get it as tight to the skull as possible. Remember, the more of this you get off, the better you are. That doesn't mean that you have to get it all off. But I do recommend you get most of it off. That goes into the ear canal.
I guess I got all the way to that earbud. You know, a lot of deer will have a bunch of flies in the nose and their cavities coming in back here, but I ain't seen not one fly larvae in here. We'll find out when we start boiling them out. Yeah, I bet this deer can breathe pretty good. Or maybe it's not that time of year. I don't know if there's specific years that these deer have them, but I've had deer that's had 40 fly larvae come out of their nose and that nasal cavity, throat. All that fat that's around that eye socket and that jawbone. Let me get all that out of there. Alright, so that side looks pretty good. Got a little work to do over here, and this deer's ready for the pot. Alright, well, let's start back here. Some pretty tough stuff right back there on that skull cap and the very back.
That jawbone. I'm gonna get all that out of there. Alright, so that side looks pretty good. Got a little work to do over here, and this deer's ready for the pot. Alright, well, let's start back here. Some pretty tough stuff right back there on that skull cap in the very back. Alright, we are going to, said I wasn't going to pause the video, but I'm just about done with this. So I'm going to pause the video. This is probably going to take me another 5 more minutes to get the rest of this off. I'm going to put the deer skull, oh actually I'm going to leave it right here. I'm going to go find my pot. And as for the boil, I'll video once I get it up to you know, essentially it'll get to a rolling boil. I'll tailor it down. Well, I'll put the skull in and it'll tailor the temperature down a little bit, and then I'll have to watch it. The goal is to boil it for about 2 hours. Pull it out. How are we going to boil it? That's a good question. Or what are we going to put in there? We're going to start with some hot water, hot tap water. Put a little bit of Dawn in there. That Dawn is going to help cut out some of the, or pull out some of the oils that are in here, or the fat, which again, we want most of the, we don't want the fat to remain in the skull. So we're going to use a little bit of Dawn or whatever degreaser, kitchen sink stuff you got. It's fine. You don't got to get no heavy duty degreaser. But we will be back in a little bit. Again, a few more minutes on this, but I'll be back once I get that pot roll and boil started.